you have to obey. If you don't obey, you would be punished. What is my point? My point is that it's a period of history where we will have to choose either to go down the current, which the West tries to move, saying that the world must be run not by international law, but by the rules. They coined an expression, rules-based world order. And if you analyze the behavior of our Western colleagues in the international arena, you would understand that these rules differ from case to case. There is no single criteria. There is no single principle, except one. If I want something, you have to obey. If you don't obey, you would be punished. This is the picture for the future offered to us by the rules-based world order promoted by the West. Basically, this is the unipolar world where the United States, which subordinated to its own will everybody else in the European Union and allies in Asia. This is the offer. Not even the offer, it's an ultimatum actually. The alternative to this, and I am sure that overwhelming majority of the world countries do not want to live as if the colonial times come back. The vast majority of the states want to be independent, want to rely on their own tradition, to rely on their own history, to rely on their old friends, don't want to betray their old friends. And this is basically evident from the fact that except 2 or 3 developing countries, no one else in Africa, Asia, or Latin America joined the illegal American and European sanctions. And back to the United Nations Charter. I believe when we speak about more just, more democratic world order, we don't need to invent anything. Once again, I quoted the charter which says that the United Nations is based on the principle of sovereign equality of states. And to recognize that each state is an independent. Each state has the right to determine how it wants to live, what kind of economic, social, political system it wants to choose on the basis of the will of its people. And I have no slightest doubt that any normal state wants to be like this. Nobody wants to have enemies. This is also an absolute truth. Neither Russia nor any other country present in this hall, I have no doubt. But if countries, like we witness now, the behavior of the West, if they do want to have enemies, as they publicly declared in their doctrines, in the decisions of the latest NATO summit in Madrid, they do want enemies, they appoint enemies, they appoint the order in which they handle these enemies. Now Russia is the first. China is earmarked as the existential challenge for a long term. And all this manifests in renewed thinking about how the world economy and world system operates. If the US and the European Union, under the demand of the US, decided to freeze the Russian reserves, and now they seriously start legal process to prepare the basis to confiscate the Russian money, who knows if they become irritated by somebody else tomorrow or day after. And they might do the same. In other words, the reliance on dollar as the instrument supporting the world economy is not very promising, frankly speaking. And it is not by incident that more and more countries are shifting to using alternative currencies, shifting to use national currencies more and more, and this process will be gaining momentum. This is not to say that we are suggesting some kind of revolution against the dollar, against the United States. This is to state the obvious. The West created a system which was based on certain principles: free market, fair competition, sanctity of the private property, presumption of innocence, something else. All these principles have been thrown down the drain when they needed to do what they believe is to punish Russia. And I don't have the slightest doubt that if need be, they will not hesitate to do the same in relation to any other country which would be which would irritate them one way or another. And I mentioned China as the next target. It's a very interesting example of how the Americans consider fair competition in practice. Actually, China developed in the number one world economy. Everybody recognizes this. And China did so. China achieved those results, working and acting on the basis of the rules established by the West. IMF, World Bank, World Trade Organizations, the rules to settle disputes, competition, and the stuff. China accepted these rules in developing its own economy, and China defeated economically and trade-wise, investment-wise, defeated the West on its own turf, on the basis of the rules invented by the West. And what happened next? Already a couple of years ago, the Secretary of Treasury of the United States, some other officials started saying, we need to reform the Bretton Woods institutions, we need to reform WTO, and we need to organize this reform between US and Europe, not to allow anybody else to participate in developing new rules. Guys, this is absolutely obvious how they want this world to be operated. And I believe, as long as it is not too late, we would be ready to talk to our Western friends when they come back to their senses about how they think they should live together with all of us in the future. But this conversation can only be made on full equality, with full respect to the legitimate interest of all of us.
Thanks for watching. If you like our info, subscribe to channel and watch the next video.